The next step is after the side assembly is dried overnight, I remove the clamps, and again I'm using the little clamp to hold this side assembly upright. If you have a vise, you can always put the chair in a vise supporting it by its lower side rail. But the next step is going to be to attach the arm to the side assembly. And what we want to do is, again, we want to glue between this upper side rail and the bottom of the arm. That's going to create a nice strong long grain to long grain glue joint, which is actually going to be stronger than the wood that surrounds it. I don't bother putting any glue on the tenon here at all. Again, these tenons, once this arm is locked in place, these tenons stick through the arms and they create enough strength. We don't need to glue those, and we don't need to risk getting glue up here on the outside of the tenon where we'll end up seeing it later. So let me show you how I do this. I would want to put an 1/8 inch bead of glue right along the top of the upper side rail. That's all I need. Next, I lower the arm down evenly. I want to be certain that I have the correct arm for the side assembly I'm working on. This taper should be on the outside of the chair. Since I don't see any joinery, no mortises here, I know this is the outside of the chair. The inside of the arm will have the 4 holes for the adjuster pins, and the inside of the side assembly has my mortise for my rear rail, the bore for my pivot pin, and the mortise for my front rail. Again, familiarize yourself with this process so that you can do this in your sleep and there's no confusion when it comes time to put it together with glue. When you're lowering the arm down, it's really important that it goes down parallel to the curve on the upper side rail. This arm's crooked. You can see in the front here, there's a big gap between the upper side rail and the bottom of the arm. Towards the back, you can see there's a narrow gap. That's telling me it's crooked. I want to make sure that as I lower this, I maintain an even gap all the way along as I drop this down. I can kind of wiggle this down a little bit. And I shouldn't need to use any kind of persuasion such as hammers. I should just be able to wiggle it down. Worst case scenario, some light tapping with my arm.
Action.
Now you see there is a slight gap in between the upper side rail and the bottom of the arm. Now on this chair you can really see it because there's no glue there at all. But once we have some glue in there, that'll fill that gap a little bit. But this is kind of where the magic happens. I start putting these small 6-inch clamps between the arm and the upper side rail. Again, I've got the flexible part of the clamp, the swiveling part, against the curved arm. And in order to protect the surface, again, you may really want to use little clamping blocks there. That way you don't dent up that upper surface of the arm. What I do is I put one clamp at the very front, one clamp in the middle, one clamp at the end. And watch what happens as I tighten these down. You see how the gap disappears as I tighten this down? So you'll have a nice tight fit between your upper side rail and the bottom of the arm. Now I'll just put one more clamp back here. I finish up with the 3rd clamp. I check. My gap's gone. Now I can put this side assembly on the side to dry overnight. In theory, glue only needs about 30 minutes to set up, to achieve about 70 or 80% of its bond strength, but I'm not that risky. I like to let the glue dry overnight. I'm not in that much of a hurry that I've got to get this out the door right away. I can afford to let this dry overnight. And the longer I can let the piece dry, the less clamps I'm using too. I don't need to run out and buy 50 clamps. Like I said, I can go ahead and I can build this chair with 4 of the longer tradesman clamps and 3 of the shorter tradesmen clamp.